Hello everyone, this is Mechtechnal, mod author of Weapons Jams, Puppies, and the Fallout 4 Randomizer. Now I'm here at the Abernathy Farm location today to showcase the weapons component of a brand new mod framework me and another mod author, Eskarn, have been working on. Now the goal of this new mod framework is to create a highly realistic, yet still fun, total game overhaul for Fallout 4. So, with no further ado, let's take a look at how we have incorporated one of the game's most iconic weapons into this framework. So, first thing you'll note here is that there's not one, but 5 different varieties of the machine gun, which, per our goal of making it realistic, is not called an assault rifle anymore. So, we have starting here, the rusted version, which will be the most common, a worn version, which will be semi-common, and the factory, which will be rare. Now, as these are all pre-war guns, which depending on which difficulty setting you play with will have to be repaired, you might run out of parts. As such, there's also casted steel and casted aluminum varieties, depending if you want to make replacement parts that are durable or lightweight. So, moving on, we have ammo. Lots and lots of ammo. Main reason being that as we've gotten rid of the legendary weapons effects for our goal of realism again, there's no more magic ammo swapping. You have to use actual different ammo types if you want different ammo effects. Now the first of these is going to be junk rounds. Lots and lots of junk rounds. Most of it will be the primary ammo you find in both 30 round and 100 round magazines throughout the wasteland, as well as individual rounds. And of course we have standard rounds, again in individual 33 round and 100 round magazines. Next we have hollow point rounds, armor piercing rounds, streaker rounds, which are a type of tracer, radiation rounds, incendiary rounds, and everybody's favorite, explosive rounds. And making its triumphant return from Fallout New Vegas, plus P rounds. Now, these are all the parts that go into making up the various weapons, and you'll notice none of them come in boxes that magically appear out of nowhere. We've actually taken the mesh for the part and used it for the loose part. That way when you come across them, you'll know exactly what they are when you see them. And again, there's each of the 5 different varieties from factory to make your own casted. And while there's always 5 different part types, they have different namings. For instance, these grips aren't necessarily factory, rusted, casted steel, casted aluminum, and worn. They're more industry standard namings. And we've done this for all the components, muzzles included. Speaking of which, I'm going to grab these scopes, and let me grab a scope one here. And let's put this to the test. So, as you might have noticed, each machine gun starts with an MG prefix. The reason for this is when you're grabbing them, and you have a lot of weapons in your Pip-Boy, it's always very easy to find them as they tend to group together. And that goes for no matter how many parts you add or take off of them. So, in addition to drastically improving the variety of the type of weapons you'll find and their conditions, we've also completely overhauled how they work. So, for instance, most military weapons have both a full auto and semi-automatic setting. We've replicated this with a hotkey. I'll switch the weapon from full to semi-automatic, depending if you want precision accuracy or spray and pray. Now I should note, as the guns are using magazines currently, every time I deplete a magazine, it'll show up in my junk as an empty magazine, and these will be used to reload them. Anyhow, should you run out of magazines, let's go cover. You can actually shoot loose rounds, which you'll do by hitting the ammo toggle tool, selecting the round type, and then selecting loose rounds. That allows you to shoot rounds. One at a time. So as you notice, each time I deplete a round type, it doesn't show up in this ammo menu, which prevents you from having to sort through any options you don't actually have. So I'm going to load this with standard rounds, and I have loose rounds, 33 round, and 100 round magazines. I'm going to put 100 on there. Now, not only can you change ammos on the fly, you can also change things like your weapon muzzles, which are typically a screw-on connector in real life. For instance, if I want to add the suppressor, I'll call up the muzzle tool and choose suppressor, which will indeed add a suppressor to the gun. Since I'm usually going to be trying to do sneak shots while I'm got the suppressor on, I'm going to switch this back to semi-automatic. However, if I want to go full spray and pray, what I can do is attach a muzzle brake, which will automatically take off the suppressor and add it back to my inventory. Put on the muzzle brake, and I'm going to go full auto. And I'm going to use some junk rounds, since I got plenty of those to waste. So, in addition to muzzles, we also offer the ability to tweak the sights. So right now I've got a red chevron. I'm going to change that to a green sight, and with the rad symbol, which is my favorite. And there's thanks to some other mod authors out there, we have plenty of options to choose from. And each one of these options, you can then change the color on to suit your taste. Now, more than just tweaking sights, we also have built in the ability to change sights. So, for instance, I can just switch over to iron sights. And let's try and hit something at range over there. So I'm going to add a scope. Now, let's see. Rounds in this game now have gravity effect added to them. So the farther you shoot, the more you have to manually compensate. And to help with that, you can actually change the zoom on the scope. Depending if you want to see up close or far away. And you can also change the reticle pattern. So I'm going to add a triple range, which is going to give me a couple range increments here. And I'm going to zoom in on with that. Also, since I'm trying to hit precision instead of doing spray and pray, I'm going to change it back to semi-automatic. So now I can target in on what I'm trying to shoot, except you'll notice I don't actually know where my rounds are going. So what I'm going to do is load my streaker rounds, which are a type of mad science tracer. And now I can see what my rounds are doing. And it would help if I didn't have a rusty barrel, but on the factory one, I'd be able to dial it in until I actually started hitting my mark. Which would be right about here. Now, one thing to note, as I've been shooting, I've actually been dropping shell casings, which I can pick up. When I've picked enough of these up, I can melt them down to a brass bar, and then use that brass bar to make more ammo. You'll be able to refill the casings by themselves, but they'll only be good for junk rounds, since most reloads tend to have issues. So, that covers the weapon overview, as far as the new components and the new functionality. So now, I'm going to go into the difficulty scaling of this mod. So up to now, I've had the game on very easy, which is making my 200-year-old weapon work flawlessly. I'm going to change that and put it on normal. And what that's going to do is start reflecting a bit more of reality. For instance, if I change this over to junk rounds while using a rusted weapon, and switch it to full auto, I just go spraying and praying, trying to desperately kill an enemy for intent on killing me. I'm going to find that this weapon that's 200 years old, probably hasn't been that well maintained, suddenly doesn't work perfectly. And there we go, jammed on me. Which the character will then throw and automatically clear it and reset. At least until it jams again. Which for a junky old weapon is fairly often. Now, we're going to adjust the difficulty again. This time to hard. Now on hard difficulty, there's a type of weapon conditioning introduced. Now it's not the type of automatic weapon deterioration you find in Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, but it's the ability for the weapon to take battle damage, as well as be damaged by various factors. For instance, this rusted weapon is degraded, and if I was to put plus P rounds on it, which are overpressure rounds, suffice to say, good things are not going to happen. Because I'm putting performance rounds through a corroded weapon. Sure enough, if I shoot enough of them, it's going to destroy the weapon. So what that did is it made the machine gun inoperable, and I cannot re-equip it until I go through and repair the broken component. Now I can still take parts off of it and put it on other weapons, but I can't use the weapon itself until it gets repaired. Anyhow, that concludes my overview of the weapons for the new Realism Overhaul mod for Fallout 4 that me and Eskarn have been working on. Hope you enjoyed watching.